AITA for telling my mom she deserves to be homeless? This happened literally about an hour ago after I got home from work, so apologies if it is all over the place. I, 23F, live with my mom, 53F, and my brother, 26M, in a subsidized housing townhome. For little context, my brother is unemployed and does not contribute, so rent, utilities, groceries are split between my mother and I. I get home this evening and there's a letter from our housing group in the mailbox at our door. It's basically a letter telling us that we're $3,200 behind on rent and could face eviction. I do send my mom $650 at the end of every month as our rent is just $1,185 and I cover the majority of the groceries, our internet and cable plus my gas for my car. I decided to bring it up to her when I get inside because in my head, it makes zero sense that we're behind considering I was sending her money every month to pay my half along with hers and I believed she was paying it. After me continuously asking how this would be possible, she quietly admitted for the past 4 months she was not paying her portion and dipped into mine sometimes because there were other necessities like hydro, electricity, some groceries and transportation, which yes is costly during winter months, but has been still buying cartons of cigarettes weekly, take out multiple times a week, and admitted she gambled quite a bit because she thought she could win extra money and cover the arrears so I would not have known, which clearly didn't work. In as few words as possible, I told her she's a selfish mother. My respect for her is gone, and if worst comes to worst, we do get evicted, she deserves to be homeless. Not only for lying and not telling me what was going on, because I could have afforded to pay more of the rent and utilities on my own to lighten any burden if she had just said something earlier. But to spend yours and your kids' rent money on gambling and many of your own wants selfishly, instead of keeping a roof over your own head or just asking for help is rock bottom, and you more so deserve whatever happens at this point, because we now cannot afford to pay it back. I have my boyfriend I can stay with if anything happens, but her and my brother are on their own. The only reason I feel like I was a little bit of an AH is because I truly know how expensive life is right now, and telling my own mother she deserves to be homeless might be inconsiderate in a time where she could really be struggling. But the anger I feel is overtaking any sympathy I have right now, and I just want to know if my reaction was just possibly overkill. I walked over to him after I blew my whistle and said, "Every one of those goals was legal because of the build outline rules. You should consider learning the rules of the sport before you sign up your own child and swear in front of a bunch of kids." He looked like he was about to explode. Some of the parents looked angry too, and his little circle went quiet. He started clapping sarcastically and said, "Way to keep it professional, sir." I then left. AITA for humiliating a dad for not knowing the rules of soccer? I am 18, am a soccer referee. I have officiated since 2020 and have played soccer for 12 years now. I have been wondering about this for a while now. Last weekend, I was officiating a few games for U10 boys. For ages 10 and under in the select league I was reffing, there is a special set of rules. There is a line called the build-out line, and it is essentially a line on both ends of the field, about 10 yards in front of the goalkeeping box. So long as you are behind the line, it does not matter where the players on the opposing team are. You can be past the defenders but not past the build-out line, and score. In an older age group, offside would apply and this would not be allowed. However, this is very clearly written in the rules, and in the last game I reffed, one of the kids on the blue team scored 3 goals this way. Behind the last defender, but not passing the build-out line, so they all counted. Every time, some dad from the team that was losing kept screaming that I had no idea what I was doing and that every one of the goals was offside. I heard one of the parents say, "It's onside because of the build-out lines," but it was very quiet. The dad continued to shout, but I ignored him, and the game finished with his team losing 6-0. At the end, he was swearing to a bunch of the parents on his side, and I heard him say, "This ref is fifking terrible." I walked over to him after I blew my whistle and said, "Every one of those goals was legal because of the build-out line rules. You should consider learning the rules of the sport before you sign up your own child and swear in front of a bunch of kids." He looked like he was about to explode. Some of the parents looked angry too, and his little circle went quiet. He started clapping sarcastically and said, "Way to keep it professional, sir." I then left. I told my parents and my mother laughed. My father told me I shouldn't bother associating with people like that, and it makes me stoop to their level. AITA for telling my mom to stop letting my brother get away with stuff just because he's autistic. I, 18F, am the youngest out of 3 siblings. My oldest brother, 22M, has autism. He doesn't understand like everyone else does and is extremely smart in certain categories. Feelings are not one of them. He doesn't understand when he does something wrong, and when he doesn't get his way, things get out of hand. My father has been on my side for most of this. My brother, who we'll call Leo, always got his way. He has 1-cell iPhone, 3 iPads, a computer, a laptop, a PlayStation, Xbox, Wii, etc. I, on the other hand, have 1 iPhone and that's it. When he gets angry, he smashes and breaks his stuff. We have had to replace electronics more than I can count. I tell my mom not to give in, but she tells me off. She always has the same excuse. Your brother is autistic, he doesn't understand. Or, when you grow up you can get a job and start a family, he can't. And yes, the family thing is true, but she shouldn't give in all the time. I tell her he's not going to learn or that he doesn't deserve it. I asked her for a monitor for my birthday, and instead I got books. She made up the excuse that we didn't have the money, but the same day she gets him a new iPad, which was over $1,500. I realized that that's the reason she said no, was so she could get him that on my birthday. Recently, my family has yelled at me for being inconsiderate and selfish for expressing how I feel. I don't know if I should stop trying to speak out and try to stop them from giving into his behavior. So, am I the asshole for wanting to be treated fairly? Ida for asking a stranger why they were touching me? So, I was at a bar with my friends having a conversation when I suddenly felt 2 hands grab my shoulders. The person whispered in my ear something along the lines of, "Stay youthful and you'll always feel free," or something random like that. I turned around and realized it was a complete stranger around his 30s, I'm in my 20s. My first reaction was to say, "Okay, but why are you grabbing me like that?" His response was, "I don't know, I just saw you looking at me earlier." I explained, "I turned around once because we were talking about something private and I wanted to check if anyone was listening." He then said, "Oh, maybe I mistook you for someone else." At that point, I felt really uncomfortable. The whole mood shifted for me, and my friend sitting next to me noticed and asked if I was okay. She later said, "Maybe you could have been more gentle in how you responded." But I told her I felt violated. He invaded my personal space and crossed a boundary. I also explained that when someone does something inappropriate, I trust my instincts and respond firmly. I believe that if you call people out in a way that humbles them, they're less likely to do the same thing to someone else. Also, if he just said hello and introduced himself, I would have reacted very differently. Even though I stood up for myself, I felt awkward and weird afterward. I couldn't shake the discomfort, and I really just wanted to leave. Now I'm questioning if I was too aggressive or if there's a better way to handle situations like this. Was I wrong for how I reacted? AITA for refusing to call me friend by her new name, Queen? My partner's friend, 25F, socially changed her name from the name her mom gave her to a name she chose for herself. She is cisgender, BTW. Her name change is due to her wanting to reinvent herself. And her new name, Queen, reflects how she thinks of herself and how she wants others to see her. Her social media usernames and profiles reflect her new name, and people she's met in the past few years call her by the name she's introduced herself as. I'd be glad to support her in the autonomy she seeks by naming herself. But my issue is that she wants everyone to call her Queen. Within the friend group, I notice that sometimes her old friends slip up and call her by her given name, but you can see that it doesn't sit well with her and that being dead named bothers her. Sometimes she'll politely correct, but not within larger groups. Sometimes her friends self-correct and call her Queen. Since Queen and King are used as terms of praise, reverence, and endearment, I am very hesitant to call this person Queen. I simply don't feel that way about her. That says, if she tells a funny joke or I'm fondly greeting her, it's easy to call her Queen. It just doesn't feel like a name to me. It feels more like a title. I don't feel right calling my peer Queen. If she were to change her name to a name that means Queen, like Reina, I wouldn't experience any unease with calling her such. I avoid using any name to refer to her. If I do use a name, I try to say Queen, but if I'm not in a good mood or if I'm annoyed with her, I don't bring myself to say it. I asked if I can call her Q, and she said no, my name is Queen. Perhaps I would feel differently if it were a stage name. AITA for telling a mom that I don't care about her daughter being dumped by my son? My son Dylan dated Melanie since the 10th grade. They are now juniors. Dylan dumped her last week and Melanie took it hard. I got a text yesterday from Melanie's mom to call her. She wanted me to bring back Melanie's sweater that she left at our house a couple of weeks ago. I said sure. I told her she could pick it up. The mom came and said that I should talk to Dylan about how much he hurt Melanie. Melanie was very attached to my son, and my son broke up with her in the wrong way. I told her I wasn't talking to my son about anything. They're high schoolers and stuff like this happens all the time, and Melanie isn't special. My son doesn't owe you or Melanie an apology for not wanting to date her anymore. Dylan wasn't mean about it. He just said that he didn't want to be in a relationship because he wanted to spend more time with his friends. The mom said that was BS. I said I don't care. He doesn't need a reason. It's none of your business. She asked me if I cared about how my son treated his girlfriends. I said, do you care how your daughter treat their boyfriends? She said it was different. I told her I had nothing left to say except I don't care about her or her daughter.